Hey friends, this is Matt with Bowles and I'm here with Danny.
And I'm Danny, and I also am with Bowles.
And today we're going to be talking about Marvel's What If.
Yeah, we're going to take about the third episode, so get ready, guys.
Let's go.
The Avengers Initiative on that.
Alright, so Danny, I am only sort of vaguely familiar with Marvel Comics in general, so where in the timeline does this episode fall?
Okay, so if you are, if you're familiar with the general MCU movies, there is Iron Man 2, Thor, and the Incredible Hulk, which actually is now apparently a part of the MCU, but those things are established to have happened within the same week of each other.
Right.
There is a Marvel comic book that came out in preparation for the Avengers movie that establishes that Nick Fury did all this stuff, or all this stuff happened within 1 week. Oh my God, I really hope this guy was staying hydrated, getting his sleep. I'm very concerned about the well-being and the work hours. So there's a lot happening all at this one period of time. And this what if premise leads into or explores the idea of what would have happened during that week period if someone just started killing off the Avengers. It's weird because the first two episodes we have a very definitive moment of what changed, right? Yondu picking up Star-Lord and forgetting about Peter Quill in episode 2, or Peggy deciding not to go up and stand in the balcony while Steve receives the super soldier injection. So this episode is not nearly as clear on where that split decision happened that changed this storyline.
So a dozen snipers and a few tanks. What are you dealing with?
Space Vikings.
Show off.
So one of the things that stood out to me most in this episode was the animation style, which really is so interesting because it's not anime, it's not your typical Western animation. It's almost cel shaded, but not. And one of the things that I really liked about it, especially in Black Widow's fight scene in the van, animation just lends itself so much more to fight scenes than it does in live action. You get to play a lot more in that space, and it really made me realize how much I appreciate animation just as a general medium.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because I always said for years that DC really killed it in terms of animation, and Marvel had a lot of catching up to do in that vein, and now I kind of I'm eating my words on that one, which I'm so happy to. The animation in this is absolutely stellar, and this whole series, the the clarity of facial expressions, and the fight scenes, everything is just so crisp, and I really feel like her scene in the truck kind of was the best example of that. So are you familiar with the elevator fight scene from Civil War? Winter Soldier.
Oh, the big glass elevator.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Steve is just trapped in an elevator with these Hydra agents,
right,
and he's just kicking butt in a very small, confined space. So this is sort of an homage, or feels like an homage to that, right? Black Widow is fighting all the same characters, all of these secret Hydra agents, including Crossbones. And it's very reminiscent of that scene, but
Sure.
I also loved that it's not a repeat of that scene. It's very clearly Natasha's fighting style. It's especially having just seen the Black Widow movie with just 90 minutes of her full on kicking butt.
I really enjoyed the two guards sitting up front talking about she's not that great a fighter only because she catches people off guard. Meanwhile, in the back, it was a fantastic scene. Absolutely,
very beautiful. So speaking of animation, I'd really like to talk about a traumatizing moment.
Hulk's death scene really stood out to me in a lot of different ways. His facial expressions while he was trying to figure out what was happening, the just body horror of it, for lack of better phrasing, it just really came out of left field. But I did like it because it was so jarring. It really really made it feel more visceral, which for the Hulk's death, it should.
So when you first brought this scene up, you compared him to another character, and I really need you, please just share that.
So
With
my first
because I can't
thought
unsee it now.
upon seeing this scene reminded me back to the old Willy Wonka with Violet Beauregard chewing that gum and blowing up. And apparently I was the only one who made that connection. I thought I would be in common company here, but I guess I'm the weirdo.
No, it does. I can't believe I didn't make that association. But just like the way that his muscles sort of like start to kind of swallow his face. Oh, it was just awful. Yeah. And then like I was a little confused and very uncomfortable by the animated, like the end result of him just like, did he explode into like, is that foam? Is that liquid? Like, what? Is this a liquid, a solid, or a gas?
I thought it was smoke.
What?
That's what it looked like, some sort of smoky mist to me, which makes even less sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that, like, Marvel is like, okay, we can't draw green guts. Like, we can't, we can't do this. Like, just, it's Disney. They won't let us. Like, but
that's a fair point.
I just don't know about him turning into Gak, like something like Nickelodeon sold me in the 90s.
Spraying over everyone.
I'm very confused. I think because, I had seen the trailer. I knew that Thor was going to get shot with an arrow, so I kind of presumed he was going to die. So I guess it didn't hit me. But when Hulk turned into slime, I did not know what to do with myself.
Because Hulk was the only one with some recognition of what was about to happen, right?
Uh-huh.
Because everyone else just keels over. Hulk's the only one who gets that moment of like, what's happening? What's going on? Oh no.
Oh no, 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 no.
A Hulk movie doesn't exist.
So theoretically, up until this point, it has not existed in the MCU.
It's not listed on any timeline.
It's not.
Any
It's not on
official
Disney
timeline.
Plus. I checked last night because I rented it because I had never actually seen it.
Yeah, it's not on there. But they are clearly establishing that is now canon.
Yes. Yeah. Which I'm okay with. It makes sense. Whatever. I would have preferred a Mark Ruffalo Hulk movie at some point during any of the phases before this. And even now, to be perfectly honest, I'm here for it.
Better late than never.
I know that Marvel has talks to possibly develop a She-Hulk story. I'm really hoping that he'll appear in that. But I'm glad that, for all of its faults, Edward Norton, I'm glad that the Incredible Hulk is a part of the MCU now, just because it kind of makes things make a lot more sense.
The shield killed her. She died because of you.
So this is a sort of a throwback for me, because when one of the first Marvel comics that I actually read was the Ultimates, and in the Ultimates, Hank Pym is just a jackass. You can bleep that if you need to. He's just awful.
I
and
think
the
we
worst.
can say that on YouTube.
Just the worst. But I think that sort of stuck with me, and I was it kind of came to mind again when this happened, because this is a very different alternate version of Hank Pym just being the worst.
He was pretty bad.
But in this one, there's a lot of, there is some empathy, there is some understanding, because as we get into the episode, if you're paying attention, when Natasha breaks into the public library to access S.H.I.E.L.D. files.
It was a weird place to do that.
Natasha has this S.H.I.E.L.D. screen pulled up, and on the screen you see various different characters who have been searched for, which include Alexander Pierce, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. at the time, who we also know from the movies is a Hydra sleeper agent and overall not good guy. And so you see his name, you see, of course, Nick Fury, you also see Maria Hill, and you see Janet Van Dyne. And if you're not paying attention to the screen and you missed it, that's fine. I had to watch it like 3 times in slow-mo to do that. But at this point, you hear Widow say, how does a woman who's been dead access the S.H.I.E.L.D. files yesterday, which implies that either Janet or Maria Hill are dead. And it definitely clicks for Black Widow, and then subsequently for Nick Fury, that it's about Hank, and we find out quite a few things from this sort of short interaction. We find out that Janet Van Dyne has died, and Hope joined up with S.H.I.E.L.D. and went on a mission and was killed. We also find out that she was killed outside of Odessa in Ukraine, which is where
location.
Black Widow says that she first encountered the Winter Soldier. So the implication here is that Bucky murdered Hope Van Dyne. And, so that sort of contributed to this what if timeline. So at this point, you're kind of like, okay, Hank, I get it. Like, your wife has died. Your daughter has died, both in the service of S.H.I.E.L.D. Everything about this moment made me really feel for Hank, but also, feel for the guy, but also be horrified by his choices and his actions.
Really great hair.
Excuse me?
It's an accurate description. Sir, he's gorgeous.
So I think the real question on everyone's mind after having watched this episode, why is Agent Coulson so thirsty?
Well, okay, so I just want to say that I'm 100% team Thirsty Coulson and his superhero crushes. I normally love those jokes.
It's definitely something we've seen before.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
We get that he loves the Avengers as he's a fanboy.
Yes, absolutely. And so my feeling is that, just like everyone else, I am very interested in Coulson's love life and attractions. However, I think that this movie was just so dark and unpleasant in its subject content that they were like, we have to cut this with some comedic value. Coulson is literally the only resource we have here that we can tap, and they just tapped it and well beyond it being dry. And that, I don't know how that ties into thirsty, but there's a lot of wetness happening.
It was very...
Got the comments.
I liked like you were saying, I liked the concept of what they were going for, but it did feel very jarring anytime they...
It was just really forced.
The line that got me was when Coulson was saying how Thor smells like lavender even while he's a rotting corpse. That felt like a little too... Again, from a comedy standpoint, it's a good joke, but it was weird.
So I have come to help you fulfill your destiny.
There are a lot of fan theories about sort of why Hank Pym came after specifically the Avengers and how he was if he was possibly influenced.
It certainly seems like that was the case, right? He's got this vengeance that sort of, because at the end when he's getting taken away, he has a real shift in his you honor her. He clearly, he still has that anger, but it's not vengeance anymore.
This is a very emotionally distraught person, and when you look at his actions, you can see how it would be very easy to manipulate him to achieving a larger goal. So there's two characters here who really had something to benefit from this whole 86ing the Avengers gig, and it's Loki, who
we see the effects of how everything played out.
Yes. Yeah, and in this Marvel's What If, Loki gets what he wants, and there has to be some kind of end, there has to be some kind of climax to that narrative, sort of, especially having it sort of teased conceptually in the Loki show.
It definitely felt very someone hands you a gift, but then you don't get to open it.
Yeah, and in the scene where Loki's coming down and telling Nick Fury, you killed my brother, so we're going to war, you get this sense that this is the opportunity he's been waiting. And with the way that he can manipulate people, it's not outside of the realm of possibility that he found different ways to manipulate Hank Pym into undertaking this and giving him an excuse to come to Earth and eliminating Thor all in one fell swoop, basically delivering him the throne while Odin is in the Odin sleep. I don't think it's unusual to think that maybe he pulled some strings behind the scenes. There's also, a lot of theories. You have a lot of mention of Pierce, the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., who we know is a Hydra sleeper agent, and there's a lot of mention of how he influenced things, including being part of the team that is taking Black Widow away, or instructing the team to take Black Widow away, and also having something to do with sending Hope Van Dyne to Odessa. I believe there's some implication that he had something to do with that as well. So there's a lot of thought that he was the one who actually, you know, on behalf of Hydra, he was the one who, you know, kind of stuck his neck out there and pushed Hank Pym in that direction. I think both of these theories are fair, are feasible. They're both a little bit of a stretch, but also this is Marvel. There's a lot of stretching.
One thing that really stood out to me was Marvel loves throwing in hints and teases at things.
God, yes.
So I think potentially, because there were all these little hints that, you know, all of this was being orchestrated by someone, it does really feel like maybe Hydra is, but like between the two, I think it is much more leaning towards Hydra because there were all these little hints everywhere.
Yeah. Could Loki have formed some sort of alliance with Hydra? I mean, there's just so much that could have happened here. And especially
what if that did happen?
What if?
All right, anyway.
I hated it!
Bummer.
So, unpopular opinion time. This took everything that I enjoyed about Marvel Phase 1 and made it sad and not fun and not exciting. I think that I think that this episode will have a follow-up story that sort of shows Captain Marvel and Captain America and Nick Fury and some of the other lesser known Avengers or less common Avengers sort of stepping up and to the plate. And I love that. I think that episode will make the rewatching of this episode very enjoyable and one of my favorites, but without any sort of content to make me feel better. I am just really still upset about Hulk, and I hated it. But I objectively hated it.
I suspect, and I have no basis for believing this, I suspect we will not get a follow-up. And I'm maybe just being pessimistic. I want that payoff of seeing where this leads. I just don't know we're going to get it.
I respect your opinion, and I hate that too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm digging my own grave here by saying I'm not going to get what I want, and I want it. I want to see where this leads. I just don't know if it's going to happen.
I would be really surprised if they don't continue the storylines. And I do believe that because we have the What If trailer and we've got this like round table image that mirrors the initial Avengers getting together. So we've got like Gamora, T'Challa, Star-Lord, Black Panther, Captain Britain. We see a corner of Captain Britain's shield, and we do see like the Union Jack. Every time I try to find the words for Union Jack, all I can think of is like the Spice Girls. So I'm like, what's on Ginger's dress?
Yeah,
like,
the Spice Girls outfit. You know, the little short dress she wears.
It's also a flag for a country.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy that they would
Easter
do that.
egg.
In general, I liked it, but I also like most things. I'm very easy to please. I like most things. I enjoyed this episode, but like I was saying earlier, like the Hulk death scene was like really out of left field in a good way. And then Agent Coulson being a little too jarring to the tone of the rest of the episode also felt a little rough.
Yeah.
But in general, I thought it was good. So that was our thoughts on episode 3 of Marvel's What If. If you liked this, since this is our first time doing this, let us know in the comments, like, subscribe, all of that. It lets us know to make more of this.
Yeah. And also, like, tell us what you thought about the episode. I would like, everyone has a fan theory, and I desperately want to know yours.
We're down in the comments all the time. Let's have those discussions. So that was it. Again, I am Matt.
Bye, go hug something soft and green.
No, you say, and I'm Danny.
Oh, and I'm Danny.
I was trying to serve that up to you. That's swish.
We did great. Fix it in post.